Forced to work from home by your employer? Laid off or feeling depressed at home? Do you want to make money working from anywhere? We'll show you how to do it from your couch. It's time for another episode of the Work From Home Show. Coming to you from their homes in Austin, Texas and Tampa, Florida, here are your hosts, Adam and Naresh.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Work From Home Show. I'm Naresh Vissa with Adam Schrader. Today we have Matt Frazier and Robert Cheeke on our show. Robert Cheeke is the founder and president of Vegan Bodybuilding and Fitness, as well as co-founder of C-VEG. He is a #1 best-selling author of several books. Let's name them all here. One is Plant-Based Muscle, Our Roadmap to Peak Performance on a Plant-Based Diet, as well as Shred It, your step-by-step guide to burning fat and building muscle on a whole food plant-based diet, and Vegan Bodybuilding and Fitness. For those who are catching up on some of the episodes or missed a few episodes, you probably know that I try my best to go vegan at home. I'm not vegan outside the home. I'm fully vegetarian, no eggs, obviously no fish or meat, but I try my best to go vegan at home. The other guest we have on is Matt Frazier. He's the founder of No Meat Athlete and #1 best-selling author of the No Meat Athlete Cookbook, whole food, plant-based recipes to fuel your workouts and the rest of your life, as well as No Meat Athlete, Run on Plants and Discover Your Fittest, Fastest, Happiest Self, and No Meat Athlete, Revised and Expanded, a plant-based nutrition and training guide for every fitness level, beginner to beyond. Both Robert and Matt are co-authors of the new book, The Plant-Based Athlete, a game-changing approach to peak performance. So both Matt Frazier and Robert Cheeke, I would say they're two of the top 10 experts when it comes to vegan dieting. And they're not just vegans walking around hugging trees and telling other people what to do. I mean, Robert is a vegan bodybuilder. Google his name, Robert Cheeke, and look at his pictures online so you can see what he looks like. I mean, he's a professional bodybuilder. And Matt, obviously, like I said in his intro, is the founder of No Meat Athlete. And he is a man of action as well. So without further ado, Matt Frazier and Robert Cheeke, thank you so much for joining us on the Work From Home Show.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Naresh and Adam. So pumped to be here with you today.
Part of the reason why we brought you on, outside of you guys being who you are, extremely successful books, successful commentators, but a lot of it has to do with working from home. And look, we're the Work From Home Show, and health and fitness and diet are so important to working from home. And I realized that when I started working from home long before the pandemic in 2013, I said, you know what, I need to get out and I need to exercise. I not become a bodybuilder, but I need to just get out, move my body, break a sweat, do some cardio, lift some weights. So I'd do that every day. And then my diet, I was eating processed. I was vegetarian, but I was just eating stuff out of cardboard boxes, processed foods nonstop, because I was young, single, in my mid-20s. And I just felt like I got blood tested, and you would think somebody that young, which being a vegetarian, would have a good blood test, but no, it was pretty bad. And so I changed my diet. I changed what I ate. I changed what I drank. So let's start with the whole work from home atmosphere. And either of you can answer this question, or both of you could answer this question. But let's just start with some tips that you have for people who are working from home and what they can do and why they should go vegan and maybe even exercise a little bit.
Sure. I mean, I can start us off. So one of the very first benefits I noticed when I went vegetarian, which is what I did first back in 2009 before I decided to go vegan, and I think I was vegetarian for 2 whole years before I became vegan. By the way, I love the vegetarian at home, vegan home, vegetarian out idea. I think that's a great kind of like step along the way to getting fully vegan if that's the goal. So that's awesome. But one of the very first benefits I noticed was actually 2 of them. One, I got more energy right away. And I know people say this, it's easy to cite more energy as a sort of hidden benefit that we can't really study all that easily. And so it's often used in sort of pseudoscientific arguments. I get that. But it just, speaking honestly, that was the very first thing I noticed was that after, say, dinner, when previously like that would be the end of my night, have dinner and then it's go watch TV and sit on the couch because you're full and you got to digest. I started just having more energy. And literally, this is when I started my blog because I went vegetarian as a marathon runner and I didn't know if it would work because I did it for ethical reasons. I wasn't even thinking about the health or performance. And so I started this blog called No Meat Athlete to kind of document the experiment. And partly I was fired up about that, about starting something, about starting my own work from home, which was always my goal. Like do that, not have a boss, be my own boss. So partly I was just fired up from that. But I found that this diet was like, as soon as dinner would be done, I'd be ready to do something. I'd either crank out a blog post or I'd go for like a second run that day. It just immediately benefited me. And then the second thing that I noticed within a few weeks, I noticed that my moods and my energy like leveled out throughout the day. Prior to this, I had assumed always that 2:30 feeling that I guess the 5-hour energy people always use in their advertisements. I had assumed that was just a natural part of being human, that like we get tired, we hit this lull at 2:30 after we eat lunch. But it turns out you don't have to feel that. If you eat just good whole foods, which means you're not eating, things that are going to spike your blood sugar or give you some other kind of crash after lunch, then your energy doesn't have to wildly fluctuate like that. So I was finding that I had just this sustained energy all the time, and that made me way better at working from home.
Yeah, and I'll tell you a couple of things. First off, that lull that you feel after lunch, I would only feel that if I ate out somewhere, if I ate some unhealthy food at a restaurant or something super heavy. But when I eat at home, working from home, it's quick. I eat my lunch and then I'm back to working or doing whatever it is that I do. That's just me. And I don't know if you have any scientific research to back that up. But the other thing I want to mention regarding energy, because people say, oh, you need meat for energy. You need the meat to stay awake and to be energized. And I did not feel that way. That the meat made me feel tired and sleepy. And if you just look at, let's say, a lion. So a lion, they eat meat, right? They go out, they kill other animals, eat them. And lions end up, after their big meal, they can sleep as long as 24 hours, I believe, because they've eaten all this food and then they're tired. And so they can sleep as long as 24 hours straight. And then they wake up and then on to the next animal. And that's like a repeating cycle. It's like 24 hours on, 24 hours off type of deal. And I equate that to we as humans. We can go out and eat a lot of meat, but I'm not saying you'll sleep for 24 hours, but to me, the lion's sleeping for 24 hours and the elephant, which is vegetarian, is up and energized and about and doing more. I'd rather be the elephant, although I do personality wise, I think I'm more of a lion, but as far as diets go, I think I'm more of an elephant.
Yeah, I mean, and that's speaking just for humans. Cats, of course, are carnivores. So the fact that something is hard for them to recover from makes you think that for a human who's an omnivore or arguably a frugivore, who eats mostly fruit, protein is not the preferred energy source by any means. It's the third one. We'd first rather have carbohydrates, then fat, then protein. Protein is useful for rebuilding muscles, sure, but it's not an energy source first and foremost. And so I think that's exactly right. Certain fruits, specifically things like dates, like as far as I'm a runner, so I'm speaking in running terms, but like dates can give you nearly immediate energy. And so can some other forms of fruit and some other forms of carbohydrate and complex carbohydrate. But, like even the idea of like needing food for immediate energy, that's, yes, for athletics, that's kind of thing. But like usually food is not an immediate energy source. And if you talk to anybody who does like intermittent fasting and doesn't start eating till lunch or 2 p.m., once they're into it and their body's used to it, they'll tell you they have more energy during that fasting time than they do after they eat. Because once you eat, your body's going into big time digestion mode and it's recruiting all kinds of energy and blood for that. So, I mean, obviously I'm not saying we shouldn't have food because we need that to sustain ourselves. But the idea that like food equals immediate energy and we need it to get through the day, it's really a myth.
Yeah, Robert, your journey interests me because you're, as a bodybuilder, I don't know if I don't believe you. Were you a vegan when you started or a vegetarian when you started? Because that seems to be an arena, at least for I personally am not a vegan or a vegetarian. I had chicken nuggets for lunch, if that tells you how wonderfully I eat. But how did you decide to make the switch to a plant-based diet and a vegan lifestyle as a bodybuilder? Because I would assume the people I know who do like powerlifting and that kind of stuff, I think they might laugh at me if I suggested they do, a vegetarian or vegan lifestyle.
Yeah, Adam, thanks. I think you'd be laughed at a lot less now, though, than when I did this 25 years ago in 1995. And I was vegan before bodybuilding. I grew up on a farm out in Western Oregon, and I raised animals. I bottle fed baby calves and raised, baby calves and chickens and rabbits and other animals, and eventually sold them at the auction in 4-H. And, I just really connected with farm animals like pets, like we might with our dog or a cat. And I got to a point in 1995 at age 15 that I just didn't want to eat animals anymore, or at least I didn't want to cause pain and suffering to farm animals because I resonated with them, or I connected with them because I was around them. And so I set out on this journey, on this, what was, I guess, a animal rights driven, moral or ethical journey to become vegan. But I was also barely 100 pounds. I weighed 120 pounds. I was a 5-sport athlete, and I truly wondered, can I get enough nutrition? Like, really, can I get enough protein? Can I get enough calories? Can I build muscle without consuming animal protein? And what I had to do was put it to the test. I had to give it a try. So I went after it. I stuck with it. I fueled the rest of my 5-sport high school athletic career with plants. I went on to run cross country in college. And then, now already 5 years into my vegan lifestyle, I said, you know what, Robert, what do you really want to do? Like what is your real passion and exercise? And what might you want to do with your professional life later on? And my answer, even if it sounds silly, was I wanted to get bigger and stronger. And I wanted to show people that you could build your body without consuming animal protein. And my goal was that I could inspire other people to do the same. And that maybe that would create, that would change the world around me. That would maybe save animals, and it would inspire others to adopt a plant-based diet, which could benefit their health as well. And so that's what I did. And I actually went on to add 100 pounds to my diet, or to my body weight. I went from 120 pounds to 220 pounds and won multiple bodybuilding competitions along the way. As Naresh said, the photos are online and the before and after and all that. And it's been a really rewarding journey because it's been meaningful to me. And I'll tell you, it was this experience that allowed me to write all those books that you mentioned, which allowed me to, guess what, work from home. I've been working from home for, I want to say, about 15 years now. I've been writing books. I produced a documentary in 2005, and largely just working from my computer, from my phone. And I became a big fan of Tim Ferriss and the 4-Hour Work Week way back in the day when that first came out, and kind of living that barefoot lifestyle. And for me, and I hope this will help some people listening, for me, I found ways to make health and fitness a priority. So one of my good friends, and Matt's good friend too, Chef AJ, who's a great plant-based chef, she has this expression when talking about food. It's particularly kind of like about junk food. And she says, if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. So if we can just surround ourselves with the best plant-based whole foods that we can, that provide the greatest nutritional return on investment, those are the foods we're going to reach to when we're hungry, when we're stressed, when we spend all day at home, in our home office, or on our computer. We're not going to be reaching for potato chips and ice cream if those things aren't around. And like Naresh was saying, go have those outside of the house. Go have nice restaurant meals or desserts or gatherings or social events outside, but really try to keep the best fuel, the best food in your house. So when you do get hungry, when you have cravings, you're going to reach for the healthiest options. And from a fitness standpoint, we can do so much with our bodies. We can do body weight exercises, and we can develop new habits, and we can have kind of consistent streaks and schedules of, okay, I'm going to do this for X number of days for this benefit that I have. And also little things. Writing this book was a lot of work. It took years to write. And so I kept dumbbells nearby. If I'm, sitting here at the keyboard for too long, I'm going to get up and do some bicep curls. I might do some push-ups, do some squats, or, take a break and take the dog for a walk, get some cardiovascular exercise in. So I think we have to look at the things that we can do and the things that we want to do, and prioritize them. And I think healthy food and exercise can be absolutely incorporated into a nice work from home environment.
I've got a series of questions that require some short answers. Just want to clarify a few things. So you said you became vegan in high school. That's when you turned vegan?
Yep, sophomore year, 1995.
And back then in the 90s, the whole vegan vegetarian movement, I used to eat meat in the 90s because I grew up in Texas, and you just couldn't survive without eating meat as a kid growing up. So
Yeah.
What was your influence or inspiration in 1995 high school, 5-sport athlete? And please share what 5 sports they were as well. But what was your inspiration to go vegan for good?
My older sister, Tanya, she gets all the credit. My older sister, Tanya, who's still vegan today, she has her PhD, she's a microbiologist, she has a vegan daughter, she's into it. She created this Animal Rights Week at my high school. I had no intentions of becoming vegan. I was eating chicken sandwiches, bacon, fast food every day with my friends I'm still friends with today, 26 years later. And my sister organized this Animal Rights Week with speakers talking about animal rights, with videos of factory farming and animal testing and literature, these like black and white brochures back then, talking about inhumane conditions that are involved in factory farming. So for me, it was really this emotional connection, this ethical decision that I don't want to support animal cruelty. And my 5 sports, I was a soccer player, I was a basketball player, I was a wrestler, I was a cross-country runner, and in track and field, I did every single sport, the throwing sports, the running, the jumping, the sprinting, the hurdles, every single sport except for about 3. So maybe 15 different ones. And was the Dan O'Brien Award winner for my team for being like the all-around athlete. And that was all fueled by plants back when the internet was brand new and there weren't a lot of books on this and essentially no documentaries on it. But I had that compelling reason to stick with it because my sister inspired me and I was driven by that. And I still am to this day. I mean, why work so hard? I've already written a bunch of books. I've already toured the world for 15 years and spoken in China and Australia and London and all these amazing places. But it just means something to me. And I just want to keep going and sharing this message. So being able to talk to you and all the other interviews we're doing is really meaningful to me. And I appreciate the platform.
Most high schools have only 3 seasons. So you did 5 sports. I'm assuming that you probably had to miss a few practices for different sports. And because you were so good and so athletic, the coaches were like, it's kind of like LeBron James. Like if LeBron James wanted to play tennis, I think he, with some coaching and a few months of hardcore dedication, I think you could be a really, really darn good tennis player.
You know what?
So I guess you're kind of like LeBron James. Like you're just good at all sports and you just step in and you dominate wrestling, you dominate cross country, you dominate basketball. I'm surprised you didn't play football though, because you're a bodybuilder.
Too small. Back then I was too small.
I was going to say 120 pounds in the race. What's he going to do?
I wrestled 133 and sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to interject. I also wanted to play tennis too, but they wouldn't let me because they said, what if I take away a varsity spot from someone while I'm, also on the track team? Like, wouldn't be fair. And some of my good friends were on the team. So it was like, okay. So I played tennis recreationally after school. I was just an athlete through and through. So I was better at some sports than others. And another reason why some sports I left. I was on the number 1 ranked soccer team in the state. And I quit because I didn't get along well with some of the other teammates. I didn't always fit in. So I quit and ran cross country. So that's where some of the 5 sports went in. I left some to pursue another one because of personal interest or in some cases even just enjoyment. I had better friends, doing the other sports. So I wanted to do that.
So Matt, Robert talked a little bit about the start of his journey, but can you tell me, for talking to people like myself, for instance, who are neither vegan or vegetarian, how do you recommend they get started? I mean, you've written like cookbooks and everything. Kind of what's the best way to start wading into the lifestyle that you're living now?
That is a great question. One of my favorites to answer. First of all, there's not one answer, right? It depends a lot on your personality. You will hear stories of people who get inspired by a documentary, or their sister organizes an animal rights thing, and then they go vegan overnight and they stay it for 25 years. But those are the exception rather than the rule. I am a much, much bigger believer, based on a lot of habit change research, and I'm kind of into that stuff, that smaller steps, gradual steps, are the way to change almost anything. So the very first thing I would recommend is, first of all, that you not try to change other habits at the same time. So a lot of people will get inspired. They say, I need to make a health change. And then they will figure out a workout plan for themselves, and they'll figure out a new diet for themselves. And then tomorrow morning, they'll start both of them. That's not usually a good thing. It'll work for a little while, and then inevitably the willpower will drain. You won't realize it's draining, but then it will, and one day it'll snap when, a weekend your friends are going to happy hour or something, and there's this whole like perfectionist illusion that's with it that says like, wow, I must be different now because it's working. And then you make one mistake, and then it's out the window, and then you don't go back. You're just done. So by all means, try it overnight if you feel like it, but I think what you'll more likely find is that once that doesn't work, you should come try a smaller step approach. It took me 4 years actually to go from omnivore to vegan. I didn't really intend to get to vegan from omnivore. I just decided at first that I was going to stop eating cows and pigs because I wanted to still get protein. I was, back then I believed that I needed protein from animals, and I was a marathon runner, so I just went that far. And then I found that I felt good about that, and that actually got me a little bit more in tune with things and animals. And I said, wow, I'd actually like to not eat chickens and turkeys either. So then I got rid of that. And anyway, it was a process for me. I'm not saying anyone should take 4 years to do it. You can do it in a couple months or 1 month or even a couple weeks. But I do think that taking one step at a time, easing your way in, is a really, really great way to do it. It allows you to psychologically adjust to different things, allows your body to adjust, get used to the fiber, just get used to totally different foods, allows you to learn how to, meal plan in different ways with increasingly more restriction. Similarly, if you're going out to a restaurant, it's a lot easier to go order off, from among the vegetarian options than the vegan options. If you're out at like a normal restaurant, you'll just have a lot more choices if you're vegetarian. So I think it helps you to take these gradual steps and learn how to do it. So like in terms of like real practical stuff, how could you do it? I like a lot like what I think Naresh said, like being vegan at home, vegetarian out. Another way to do that, like at the very beginning, would be keep eating whatever you normally eat, whatever you eat for dinner now, keep eating that for dinner. But can you be plant-based up until then? An even smaller step than that, if that's too much, and I think for a lot of people that would be too much, just change your breakfast. Just start having the healthiest breakfast you can imagine, or not even that, a plant-based breakfast, like a smoothie, something, or just some fruit, oatmeal if you want, but like put a little bit of effort into your breakfast and make a good plant-based breakfast that will get you to lunchtime having eaten only plants this morning. And do that for a week straight before you try to go to the next step and start making your lunch plant-based. So I really think like easing in with some sort of system like that, some sort of structure on it, rather than just saying like, because if you tell yourself, well, I'm going to gradually start eating more plant foods, that usually doesn't get anywhere. You need some sort of like game or structure or rules or a 7-day challenge or whatever it is. But I think you can ease in. There's lots of ways you can do it with the vegan at home, omnivore out, vegan at home, vegetarian out. Plant-based till dinner time. The people who do raw till 4, that used to be a big movement. They would eat raw foods all day and then whatever they want for nighttime. Anyway, so lots and lots of ways to do it. But the theme here for all these is that you take a smaller step before you take the big step or before you take the next smaller step. And for me, that applies to fitness and stuff as well. Like if you're trying to become a runner, you don't need to start running an hour a day or a half hour a day. Start running 2 minutes or 5 minutes a day. And that you'll find that you can change the habit that way before your willpower breaks down. And if you're doing it right, that habit will become automatic before you run out of willpower, and then you've created something that will last.
Robert, you mentioned that when you're working, you'll take a break, lift some dumbbells, do some push-ups. Can you share some tips to the work-from-homers out there on what they can do at home while they're working from home, what they can do physically, exercising-wise, some yoga poses or Peloton? What are your thoughts on that? And then also my follow-up question to that is, do you work out at home? Do you have like a home gym so you don't go to any gym or anything? You just got everything. You're a professional bodybuilder. So do you just have everything at home for the convenience?
Those are great questions. And I think the first one just starts with commitment and discipline, because we all have our body to work with. We can all do push-ups and squats and lunges and dips and things if we want to, but it's kind of developing a routine. And I used to say on tour all the time, many years ago, that you could work out an hour every single day, 7 days a week, and still, and hard, work out for an hour in the gym and still be considered an inactive person if you sit at a computer all day long, like many of us who work from home do. And I fell into that trap. I was this former champion bodybuilder, but trying to build my brand and build my business and write books. And I realized that, wow, even if I'm training for an hour a day, I'm just sitting and I'm sitting and I'm sitting for 14 hours a day, and then sleeping for another 8 or whatever the case is. And I wasn't really active anymore. And so I did little things like I got a stationary bike for home. I'm a big basketball fan, but sometimes I feel guilty if I'm watching basketball because I could be doing something else, including, I don't know, building my business or spending time with family or whatever. And so if I'm going to watch basketball, I'm going to have to earn it. I'm going to sit on this bike and I'm going to take a break from my work day and do it in the evenings or do it in, or use the bike when I'm not watching basketball, but even just check my email from my phone first thing in the morning in a fasted state. But what I would say, for the most tangible, practical advice that I can give, I would say get minimal equipment, a pair of dumbbells, and I even as someone who's over 200 pounds and pretty strong, I use often the same weight to do lateral raises, which are for shoulder exercise, front raises, overhead presses, bicep curls, and tricep kickbacks, just so I don't have to constantly adjust the dumbbells. I can use the same weight for all those different exercises. And then I can do crunches in between. Even sometimes if I wind down watching television at night with my wife and with our dogs, just relaxing, I can lay on the floor, elevate my feet and do some crunches, that kind of thing. And it doesn't take away from my experience of, just kind of lazily watching television. I get a little something out of it. But also importantly, I think getting up every hour or every 15 minutes and doing something. I'm fortunate that I have stairs in my house. Fortunate, I guess, from an exercise standpoint. And so I make a point to climb a lot of stairs. I'm constantly going up and down stairs. If I work in the basement, if I work upstairs or wherever I am, because that is one of the great forms of exercise. I don't have a Stairmaster at home, which is one of my favorite pieces of exercise equipment, period, at the gym, because it's so good for cardiovascular training, fat burning, strengthening legs and glutes and calves and core. But I can do it at home. And so I make a point to do that. Sometimes I get a little carried away where I get too caught up in my work. Like if our book has deadlines and I'm like, oh man, I didn't exercise quite as much as I could have. But I also don't kind of beat myself up for that. I say, you know what, Robert, you chose priorities today that are going to pay off in the long run from a professional standpoint or whatever the argument I make in my head is. And I get back right at it the next day. One example of this is, like Matt, I'm really big in developing habits and routines. And I think that's the only way either one of us have been successful in releasing all these books and touring and speaking and everything, is because we found a way to develop habits. And one of mine was doing 100 push-ups and 200 crunches every day. And it wasn't to strengthen my chest or my core. It was to teach myself discipline. And I did that for 739 consecutive days. I didn't miss a day for 2 years. And then one day I did. I missed a day. I just forgot, or I was traveling, or I was sick or something. But the next day I started again and went another 101 days before I missed a day again. And that's what I think it's all about, is getting right back up, even if you feel like emotionally you fall short. And to answer your question about exercise equipment at home, I don't have a full gym. Even my younger brother, who's not as much of a competitive athlete these days as me, he has way more equipment at his house. I really like the gym environment because I feel like when I'm there for a purpose. No cell phone near me. I leave my phone. I haven't taken my phone in the gym with me in over a year. It's great mind-muscle connection. I'm there inside my own head. I'm focused. I'm determined. I'm there to get a return on my investment. When I'm at home, I'm sure you can all relate, everybody who's listening here and who's on this recording right now, the temptation is there to check email or to check cell phone notifications or check social media. And those temptations
get farther and farther apart.
Yeah, exactly. Sets get further and further apart, and the temptation is there. And then all of a sudden, you know what? I got to go attend to this call or this text or this email. I got a deadline. I'll just work out tomorrow. And then tomorrow never comes as far as the workout goes, and maybe it doesn't come until Saturday. And now I missed 3 or 4 days because I didn't just take myself out of that environment. And maybe that's my own, my own discipline. Other people maybe can leave their phone in another room or put it on airplane mode or whatever. But if I'm in a home space, workspace, I feel like that's what I'm there to do. And that's why I just do those sets here and there. But for me, I do like to get out of the house. It doesn't have to be a gym. It could just be, going for a jog. It can be running on the trail, going for a hike, which I used to do 4 days a week, living in Arizona back in the day. So it's finding what you enjoy and what you will do and what you'll commit to, and then just doing it.
So Robert, I want to get your take on this. We've seen a lot, if you read about, weightlifting, there's a lot of kind of not pros and cons. There's a lot of different things. You should do a lot of reps. You should do heavy weights. I personally have found whenever I was lifting weights that doing fewer reps, heavier weight made me feel better. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love to push heavy weight. There's just something to it. There's something enjoyable about low reps and going to not necessarily 1 rep max, but just to kind of push your limits. And that's what I've liked about all aspects of athletics. I mean, you mentioned you mentioned that my background in sports. I was very competitive back then and always wanted to be the best at everything. The fastest mile runner in school, and all these kind of things. And so for me, lifting heavy weights and doing these low rep, I don't want to say extreme movements, there's something empowering about it. I just feel like I'm getting some great benefit from it, more than just doing like 12 reps of these curls where I know I could do a lot more. Yeah. So I've leg pressed over 1,000 pounds and on the hip sled leg press, and I've used 120-pound dumbbells in each hand for chest press, and many times
I've done that. I got up to like 85, and that was about it.
That's great. That's great though. But I feel just so much more alive, like pressing 300 pounds over my head in a decline barbell bench press, and it's not even necessarily an ego thing. It's more of like a self accomplishment, like a personal pride, or even just. Not even the pride, it's just the enjoyment of it. Like, I just like it. Like some people like sprinting more than they like jogging, or some people like jogging more than they like, running up a steep hill. And I just happen to like the heavy weights and the low reps. And I found that that's great for strength gains too. And because you're pressing so much weight, you're able to add muscle mass as well. And so for me, I actually ease into a workout by doing really high reps, like ridiculously high. I'll start with an exercise and do like 25 reps to get warmed up of chest press or whatever it is that I'm doing. And then I'll slowly get down to sets of 12 reps, and then 10, 8, 6, and then give it everything I've got for 1, 2, or 3 reps. And that's kind of my style, because it gives a little bit of everything, a little bit of flexibility, a little bit of these great muscle contractions, a little bit of endurance. So you get some endurance strength with the higher reps, and then the power and explosiveness. And I think that's great for building a functional physique as well, where you're strong, you're flexible, and you've got endurance. It's like the CrossFit, dream kind of thing, where you have got all aspects of physical fitness. And so that's my approach to training these days.
You brought up muscle mass. One of the, and I don't know if this is true, that's why you would know if it is true, but one of the criticisms of the vegan diet is people say, oh, you can't build muscle mass as a vegan. All the vegans I know are so scrawny, and they just, no matter how hard you try, it just can't happen. Can you debunk that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Just Google Robert Cheeke. I put on go look at my Instagram page. Go look at my Facebook page. And I'm being serious. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to live that example. I wanted to show people through my example, and I feel like I've done that. Not many people that I can even think of anywhere in the world who have gained 100 pounds on a plant-based diet, but I've done it, and I've been competitive in sports and won bodybuilding competitions and all of that. And so I was going to joke, you got to hang around a different crowd of vegans. A bunch of them in our new book, The Plant-Based Athlete, are power lifters and world record holders and international record holders and California state record holders in powerlifting. They're out there. And that's the really exciting thing about releasing a book like The Plant-Based Athlete, is that it's not just the Brendan Braziers of the world and Scott Jurek and Fiona Oakes and the great endurance athletes that many of us know of. But now we've got bodybuilders, power lifters, boxers, NFL football players like Cam Newton and David Carter and Arian Foster and Griff Whalen, and NBA basketball stars like Kyrie Irving and Chris Paul and JaVale McGee and DeAndre Jordan and Omeka Okafor and Garrett Temple. And I mean, it's just so exciting now that there are people out there. And the Game Changers did a heck of a job showing that too, that you certainly can build muscle on a plant-based diet. And I'm just one example right here talking to you.
So when you talk about the plant-based diet and getting the peak performance, have y'all found that you can reach a better peak performance on a plant-based diet doing the vegan, or is it kind of you can reach the same level of peak performance? Like, does it add anything, or is it just kind of even?
That is a really good question. And really the best way to answer that is through scientific studies, of which there have been a number of them now. It took a long time to get them because plant-based diet hasn't been all that popular until recent years. And so, now we've got studies, and we cite a few of them in the book, both studies with men and with women, where their goals are strength building and muscle building, or muscle mass gain and strength results. And they've got a test group of people on a completely plant-based diet, and then others with an omnivorous diet. And both are using the exact same amount of protein, one coming from plants, one coming from whey protein, plus just the other food that is consumed on that omnivorous diet. And the results have been exactly the same, exact same amount of muscle mass built over an 8 or 12-week period. And I realize that's not a really long-term study, but that's just the nature of how they do these things. And so the strength was the same and the muscle mass was the same. But in the recent study, I think it was February 2021, out of Montreal with female endurance athletes, they found that across the board, the plant-based athletes had greater results. And that's not too surprising because the complex carbohydrate fuel that comes from plants is so conducive to long distance sports and endurance. So that was essentially to be expected, that a plant-based diet would produce superior results for endurance athletes. But the fact that strength results have been the same too has been really inspiring. And then furthermore, so the studies are there, and that's what I think you really have to look at, the science. But then the anecdotal results are there too, with the many Olympic, world champion, world record holding, and professional athletes that we interviewed for our book, The Plant-Based Athlete, who tell first-person accounts of, they were omnivorous athletes. They came to a plant-based diet and reduced their inflammation, reduced their soreness, improved recovery, increased their energy, and saw better results. And those are actually the stories that I love. Because I've been doing this for so long, who knows what kind of athlete I was at age 15 before I switched to plants. I was so young. It was so long ago. I don't know. But when NBA players like Chris Paul adopt a plant-based diet 2 years ago and then go on to have the best seasons of his career and credits a plant-based diet for reducing the inflammation and the soreness and speeding up his recovery, that resonates with me. It's like, that's it. That matches what the science says. And it's great to have these first-person examples.
I didn't even think, I know Chris Paul has been a proponent of Beyond Meat. He's been a proponent of going vegan, but it didn't even occur to me the correlation between his level of play and the diet, because his career looked like it was in decline just 3 years ago. He was 33 years old, maybe 34 years old. He was getting injured a lot. He wasn't performing like he was when he was in his late 20s. And then the 2020, actually it was just the 2021 season. 2020-2021 season. At the age of 36, he just turned it up another notch. And I think he was named to like the All NBA second team or third team. Yeah. As a 36-year-old, 36 for our listeners who don't follow the NBA, if you're above the age of 35, you're considered an old grandpa. Like you'll be lucky. I can probably count on two hands how many players there are in the league under or above the age of 35. That's how few it is. And Chris Paul has only gotten better. You said
Yeah.
years ago he switched over, and I see a clear bump in his level of play. I never equated it to the diet. I just thought he surpassed my expectations. But now I understand. Maybe it is a diet.
Yeah, exactly. And I can tell you, I talked to him. I met him in California. He had just been released or been traded from Houston to Oklahoma City, and that was my team because I was a big Russell Westbrook fan. I still am. And so I asked him, "Are you ready to go to OKC and all this stuff?" And he was all ready to go, and he was pumped for it. And he had a phenomenal season. You may recall he had his first dunk ever in an NBA game, his entire career. That in the All-Star game, the alley-oop two-handed dunk from Russell Westbrook, where he hung on the rim, and I was like shouting, from the TV because I had just met Chris, and I'm a big fan of Russell Westbrook, and they teamed up on that play. And then this year, he had an amazing season in Phoenix, turned the entire organization around, and he received a bunch of MVP votes this year at age 36. And he does credit the diet to the change in his performance, and he's said that explicitly in numerous interviews. And he's just one example. There's Novak Djokovic, who just won the French Open 2 days ago, and there's Venus Williams and Serena Williams and Lewis Hamilton and Alex Morgan, these great soccer players, and so many others. Cam Newton in the NFL, and he was an MVP favorite until he had some injuries and stuff this past season. But we're still a little bit few and far between as far as elite and well-known plant-based athletes, and that's just because the plant-based diet hasn't been all that popular in mainstream culture in recent decades. But as it's rising in popularity, and we're seeing the Chris Pauls of the world and the Alex Morgans of the world adopting this diet and being the best in their sports, and in some cases completely revitalizing, completely just resurrecting their careers. It's been nothing short of inspiring for me. And it just, I don't know, it just kind of recognizes the things that I've observed over the last 25 years, and it puts it on a world stage. And so it's just been really, really rewarding and fulfilling for me to see that happen.
I want to talk a little bit about fake meat, where there are several companies out there. Morningstar, Beyond Meat is the popular plant-based. There are some competitors to it. What are your thoughts on fake meat?
Yeah, I think it's, in the U.S., we're not going to stop eating meat. We tried with black bean burgers and quinoa burgers and whatever in the hippie movement, the 60s, 70s, 80s. But Americans are not going to stop eating meat. And I've been around the animal rights movement. I've been around the health movement for decades now. And we just have to kind of embrace that. And that's what Ethan Brown did with the CEO and founder of Beyond Meat. And I've known him for a long time. And he recognized that people were not going to stop eating meat. But what he could do was create a healthier version that was more sustainable with a lower footprint on the environment. So one that would have no dietary cholesterol, less saturated fat, less overall fat, fewer resources, without the need of factory farms and slaughter and transportation of frozen meat and all this kind of stuff, from factory farms to warehouses and distribution to restaurants and grocery stores and all of that, and not to mention not having to raise all the soybeans and corn to feed cows and the grasslands and everything, and the clear cutting of the rainforest. To create more room to grow soybeans to then feed to cows then for us to eat. And so whether it was Pat Brown at Impossible Foods, who had a very similar mission, or Ethan Brown, they have this mission that Americans are going to keep eating meat. That's just the way it is in our culture. But we can make a healthier meat and one that's going to be better for human health, better for the environment, and clearly better for animals. And so that's what they've done. It's not something that I eat a lot of. I've certainly eaten my share of Beyond Meat. Don't get me wrong. I've had Beyond Meat tacos and burritos and burgers and all.
Me, I love them. They taste good.
No, absolutely. I think they're fantastic. But I tend to focus as an athlete a little bit more on whole foods, just to get the higher amounts of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and without the extra oils or any of the processing. And typically when you eat a burger, what do you do with it? You put sauces on it, you put bread with it, you add all these extra calories and all this extra stuff to it. And so, I do it more of I don't know, I don't want to say special occasion, but it's not totally an everyday thing for me, but it certainly can. It certainly can be for people. And I think it's an absolutely great alternative to standard animal-based meat. And we're starting to see it really, really take off in the US, Canada, Germany, and now, get into so many other places around the world. So I think it's a very positive thing. And it's really kind of the future of protein. That's one of their taglines, is changing the way America meats and the future of protein. And it's made out of plants.
That is Robert Cheeke and Matt Frazier. Thank you so much for joining us on the Work From Home Show. Check out their books on Amazon. Their latest book together that they co-authored is called The Plant-Based Athlete, a game-changing approach to peak performance. The websites for both Matt and Robert, veganbodybuilding.com. That's Robert's website, veganbodybuilding.com. And Matt's website is nomeatathlete.com, nomeatathlete.com. Any final thoughts you want to share with our listeners or anything else you want to promote?
Yeah, Naresh, thanks so much. And Adam, thanks for having us. And, I just really encourage people to follow your passion and make it happen. I know so many people dream of working from home. I know so many people dream of reclaiming their health and fitness. And that can be achieved by just changing what you put on the end of your fork and what you decide to put on your plate. And so I would encourage you to add more plants to your plate, eat and exercise with a purpose, set some meaningful goals, and work hard toward achieving them. And you can live the life of your dreams and be healthy, happy, and fit all along the way. And I thank you for the time. I thank you for the platform and for the opportunity to share with your listeners. And I encourage anyone out there to check out The Plant-Based Athlete, because it's more than just eating and fitness. There's a bunch about mindset and about goal setting and about working towards something that you care deeply about. And I think it's incredibly inspirational, too, with all the athlete stories. So I want to thank you both and wish you all the very best, and thank everyone for tuning in.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Work From Home Show. To all our listeners, check out our website at workfromhomeshow.com. That's www.workfromhomeshow.com. If you have any thoughts about this episode or any questions or comments you want to leave us, hello@workfromhomeshow.com is our email address. That's hello@workfromhomeshow.com. Leave us a review on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, whatever podcasting platform you use. And until next week, keep on working from home.